Dear friends, welcome all of you to this discourse. Today I am going to discuss on Indian Independence Act 1947. The Indian Independence Act was based upon the Mountbatten Plan of 3rd June 1947 and was passed by the British Parliament on July 5th, 1947. It received royal assent on July 18th, 1947. The most important silent feature of this Indian Independent Act, like it provided for two dominion status states, India and Pakistan. The boundaries between the two dominion states were to be determined by a boundary commission which was headed by Sir Cyril Radcliffe. It provided for partition of Punjab, of Bengal, and separate boundary commissions to demarcate the boundaries between them. Pakistan was to comprise the West Punjab, East Bengal, territories of the Sindh, North-West Frontier provinces, Sylhet division of Assam, Bhabalpur, Khairapur, Balochistan, and 8 other princely states of Balochistan. The authority of the British Crown over the princely states ceased, and they were free to join either India or Pakistan or remain independent. Both the dominions of India and Pakistan were to have governor generals to be appointed by the British king. The act also provided for a common governor general if both of them agreed. The constituent assemblies of both the states were free to make constitutions of their respective countries. For the time being, till the constitution was made, both of them would be governed in accordance with the Government of India Act 1935. Any modification or omission could be done by the Governor General. British government would not continue any control on any dominion. The Governor General was invested with adequate powers until March 1948 to issue orders for effective implementation of the provisions of the Indian Independence Act 1947. Those civil servants who had been appointed before the August 15, 1947 will continue in service with same privileges. But after these provisions, acts, what happened after this? After implementation of this 1947 Indian Independent Acts, Jinnah left for Karachi on August 7, 1947. Here the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan met on August 11, 1947 and elected him the president. 3 days later, he was sworn in as Governor General of Pakistan. On the midnight of 14th August and 15th August 1947, India and Pakistan came into existence. The Constituent Assembly then appointed Lord Mountbatten as the first Governor General of the Indian Dominion. In the morning of August 15, 1947, a new cabinet headed by Jawaharlal Nehru was sworn in India, paid a heavy price thereafter in the form of thousands of lives lost in the fire of partition. The provisions of Indian Independence Act 1947, like the British government will leave India on 15th August 1947. India will be divided into two sovereign states of India and Pakistan, and both these states will become sovereign on this very day. The powers previously exercised by the British government in India will be transferred to both these states. Punjab and Bengal will be divided, and its territories will be demarcated by a boundary commission to be headed by Mr. Radcliffe. Office of the Secretary of State for India will be abolished. Provision was made for the Governor General for each dominion, who was to be appointed by the Queen of England on the advice of the Dominion government. He was not to act in his individual judgment or discretion, but will act merely as constitutional head of the state. Each dominion was to have a sovereign legislature for rule-making purpose. No law made by British Parliament was automatically to apply to India. A bill passed by the Dominion's legislature could not be disallowed by His Majesty. Both the dominions will have their own constituent assemblies, which will act as their legislature as well as, till such time as the constitution was framed by the Constituent Assembly in any dominion, it will work as near the Act of 1935 as possible. Governors of the provinces were to act as constitutional heads of the provinces. Reservation of posts for Secretary of State was to discontinue. Those civil service personnel who wanted to resign after transfer of power to both the dominions were to be allowed to do so. The Act provided for the establishment of two dominions, India and Pakistan, on 15th August 1947. The territories of the dominions were demarcated. The division of the Punjab and Bengal was to be effected according to the recommendations of the Boundary Commission set up under the chairmanship of Radcliffe. The Act abolished the office of the Secretary of State for India and his advisors and provided a Governor General for each dominion. Each dominion was to have a sovereign legislature. No act passed by the British Parliament after 15th 1947 August. The constituent assemblies of the two dominions were to serve as their respective legislatures. Each dominion was to be governed as nearly as possible according to the provisions of the Government of India Act 1935 as adapted to the new circumstances by the Governor General. The governors of the provinces were to be nominated by the Dominion cabinets. They were to follow the advice given by their ministers under all circumstances. With the creation of the dominions, appointment to civil services and reservations of the posts by the Secretary of State were to be discontinued. Compensation was to be given to those of then existing services who might like to resign their services after the transfer of powers. The Act made a provision for the maintenance of the then existing conditions of services as well as pensioner rights. As regards those service who had to continue services under the government of either of the new dominions or of any provinces. The paramountcy of the British Crown over the Indian native states and also its connection with tribal areas came to an end from 15th August 1947. The states, India and Pakistan, remained independent. It was further provided in the Act that the relation of the British government with the new dominions were to be conducted through the Commonwealth Relations Office. The Indian Independent Act 1947 closed the chapter of the British rule and opened a new one of free India. Lord Samuel says that it was an event unique in history, a treaty of peace without war. Thank you for listening me.